Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, Part 1. We are almost done with the Harry Potter reviews leading up to Fantastic Beasts 3. One more after this, and then I gotta talk about Fantastic Beasts. Re-review Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald, even though I don't want to. But we are almost done with these Harry Potter reviews, and in Part 1, Harry, Ron, and Hermione do not go back to Hogwarts for their 7th year. They are instead hunting the Horcruxes that Harry learned can defeat Voldemort, while Voldemort is trying to keep them at bay. He has his own goals in mind, trying to stop a trio of kids. I honestly think Deathly Hallows Part 1 is underrated. A lot of people look at this one as a boring one too, similar to Half-Blood Prince. I'm like, whoa, hold on. You're telling me this is a boring movie? There's actually stuff that happens and it's different compared to the other 6 movies. Like, we don't go back to Hogwarts in this movie at all. No Hogwarts, no Professor McGonagall, no nothing. I mean, hey, you get Neville Longbottom saying, losers, he's not here yet. You get some cameos from other people that aren't that important to the story, but hey, Draco still plays a prominent part. Lucius still plays a prominent part, and thank God that they switched that scene in the Order of the Phoenix from the book where Lucius breaks the prophecy, because now you have that whole scene at the beginning of the movie. And I believe it was the first chapter of the book where Voldemort has all his Death Eaters together and they have this meeting and he legitimately calls out Lucius and breaks Lucius's wand. He broke the prophecy. I'm like, good for you, Voldemort. That dude needs to rot in a prison cell.
I must do it with another's wand. Come. Surely one of you would like the honor. What about you, Lucius? My lord.
The first half of the movie is actually pretty front-loaded with the action sequences. I mean, you have the 7 Potter sequence, which I think is actually done better in the movie than it is in the book, mostly because in the book, they were only in the air. For the first part of the chase, Harry and Hagrid are on the ground, so it added a bit more tension, it added a bit more suspense, it added some more thrilling action to the sequence than what happened in the book. Then we eventually get to the part where they're in the air and Hedwig, dies. Everybody's dying in these movies. Why? You also have the attack at the wedding, and then you have a little duel in a cafe between Harry, Ron, and Hermione versus a couple of Death Eaters. You also have the whole sequence at the Ministry of Magic, which I think is really riveting and played for laughs, because Ron gets a little too much into his disguise when they're under Polyjuice Potion, and it makes for some hilarious comedy.
Oh my god, what am I gonna do? My wife's all alone downstairs.
Ron, you don't have a wife.
Oh, right.
You bring back that bitch Umbridge and you really put her straight, thank God. But then the movie slows down a little bit as the trio just starts camping out in places. And now they have to try and figure out how to destroy this Horcrux that they've had since the end of the 6th film. They can't really figure out a way to do it. I can see how sequences of this section of the movie could wane interest, because people probably read the book and were like, they're still camping. And then 300 pages later, dude, they're still camping. When it gets to these sections of the movie, I could definitely see people being like, dude, they're still camping. And then 10 minutes later, dude, they're still camping. There's also another scene that's not in the book that they added into the movie, which I think was a brilliant addition. It's the scene after Ron leaves and gets jealous of Harry and Hermione hanging out a lot because he's been corrupted by the Horcrux, where Ron leaves and Hermione's a bit depressed. So a song comes on the radio and Harry dances with Hermione. There's 2 things I love about this scene. It's their last fleeting moment of happiness before shit hits the fan like it always does in these films. So it's nice to see Harry and Hermione have a moment of just pure friendship and happiness, smiles on their faces, as well as a way to break Hermione out of that depressive mode that she was probably in for God knows how long they were in that tent. So it's not just a way to stir up their feelings of friendship, it's Harry's way to cheer Hermione up. And I actually really love that. Something that I think goes overlooked in this movie is Emma Watson's performance. She is damn good in this movie. This is by far her best performance of not only any of the Harry Potter films, but of her career, I believe. Especially later on in the movie when we get to Malfoy Manor. The part where she has mudblood carved into her arm by Bellatrix Lestrange and Hermione is legitimately shrieking for fear. Emma Watson does such a good job in that scene where I was thinking to myself, that is not acting. That is literally somebody getting tortured. I feel like she's able to capture a lot more of the emotions that Hermione's feeling in this movie, more than she does in the previous movies. She was really good in the previous movies, but this one especially, where she has all these different types of feelings, you know, for Ron, that sequence in particular, she gets a little bit bossy in this movie as well. So yeah, I think she really nailed the performance in this movie, and so kudos to Emma Watson. The Snatcher chase, I think, could have been done a little bit better. Has never been a favorite sequence of mine in the movie. I've always thought that this was really weakly filmed. You can tell it's handheld. Somebody's running through the forest. There's a lot of close-ups in the sequence. You can tell it's from a handheld camera, but the camera is on a tripod that's on a dolly that keeps swinging back and forth, and it's a lot of quick cutting. There's a lot of blurry images that flash past the camera really quick, so it's really hard to tell what's going on in the sequence. It's never been a favorite of mine, and I've seen it get a lot of praise. It's literally one of my least favorite sequences in a Harry Potter film. And I get what they were going for. They were going for a more visceral, in the moment, like these kids could actually die type of chase. It just didn't work for me in that regard. And then some of the pacing in the first 10 minutes or so, I think could have been fixed. The Dursleys are barely in this movie. There's a deleted scene where Petunia talks to Harry about his mother. That would have been a heartfelt moment to have kept in the film, and I don't know why that was cut for pacing issues. I wish that was in there, because that's a scene from the book that I think is very integral to the Dursleys and how they actually have finally come to respect Harry. We just didn't get to see that scene in the movie. It is something I would have loved to have seen, but cut for pacing issues. No idea why, but it is what it is. The movie ends at Malfoy Manor, a really great, riveting sequence in Malfoy Manor where Dobby fucking dies. Everybody dies. Why? This is like Game of Thrones level shit. When you're splitting a movie into two parts, you have to know when to end the first part. I think that ending the first part on Malfoy Manor is a good stopping point, and then having that cliffhanger where Voldemort goes to Dumbledore's tomb and he gets the Elder Wand. One of the items of the Deathly Hallows, we learn about what the Deathly Hallows are in this movie from a sequence that is animated, told to us by Hermione, which I thought was another prime example of Emma Watson's great acting in this movie. She's basically a voiceover for this entire sequence. And we learn what the Deathly Hallows are: the Elder Wand, the Resurrection Stone, and the Cloak of Invisibility. Really interesting sequence, and I liked how they decided to present that on screen. It's this type of animated sequence that we haven't really seen in a Harry Potter film, and that's what I love about Deathly Hallows Part 1, is that it's different compared to the previous 6 movies. Sure, Sorcerer's Stone and Chamber of Secrets can be a bit interchangeable, but 3, 4, 5, and 6, they feel as if they're their own thing, but at the same time, they feel very familiar. This doesn't take place at Hogwarts. It takes place in many different areas and locations that we haven't seen before, mostly in the forest. I can definitely see it waning some people's attention because maybe we're not at Hogwarts. This movie also runs the risk of splitting the movie into 2 parts for monetary reasons. This book needed to be split into 2 movies. Unfortunately, splitting Deathly Hallows into 2 movies led to a trend Hollywood was doing because they wanted money. Twilight, Hunger Games, or Divergent was going to be a 2-part finale until they didn't make the second part. So it definitely started a trend that probably should not have happened, but Harry Potter needed it. Those other movie series did not need it. Deathly Hallows Part 1, I think, is underrated. As I said, I think it will wane some people's attention because we're not in familiar locations. The Snatcher chase isn't my favorite sequence in the movie, and there are some pacing issues at the beginning, but I think that this is an underrated Harry Potter film, and I'm going to give Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1 an A-. I believe it's a lot more action-packed than people think it is. If you actually watch the movie all the way through, you'll understand that there's a lot more action and tension and suspense than probably realized on first viewing. So stay tuned very soon for the final part of my Harry Potter series, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2. Coming very soon. You guys are the best. Thank you for watching. My name is Alex Madden, and I'll see you at the movies somewhere.